continue solving or answering the questions regarding the rest. Type 54. This was a question in April 2016, if I remember correctly. It says, which of the following lists of numbers could be the side lengths in inches of a triangle? And I reminded you, or I told you at the time, that the length of the third side, any side, should be less than the sum of the other two and bigger than the difference of the other two as well. And we took an example. If we have, let's say, a triangle that looks like this, we have this one as 10, 12. This third side could be, the third side will be between the sum of both, which is 22, and the difference, which is the 2. So this third side could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up until 21. It cannot be 22, and it cannot be 2. If you check F, if I, let's say, took this one in the middle, if I pretended as if I don't know the value of this one, then the third side, this one, should be in the middle between the sum of the other two, which is 4, 3 plus 1, and the difference, which is 2. But apparently, in truth, it's actually 2, which is equivalent to this, so F wouldn't work. Does this make sense? Of course, again. So pretend that one of those sides is unknown, and let's apply this rule. Pretend, let's say that this middle one is unknown. I don't know the one in the middle. It is supposed to, according to this law, it is supposed to be between the sum and the difference of the other two sides. Add the other two sides home, 3 and 1. Let's add them together, 3 plus 1 and 3 minus 1. That would mean in the third side should be less than 4 and bigger than 2. But when you check this option that they gave me that this middle one is 2, which is equal to this, and it can't be right. It should be bigger than 2 or less than 4. So this means that choice F is an incorrect option. If you checked, for example, option H, let's say we pretended that any of the sides does not exist, 11, for example. So then we'll say that 3 plus 7, that's the sum of the other two, and 7 minus 3 is the difference of the other two, which means that the third side should be between 10 and 4. 11, which is the one that I missed, that I crossed out, is actually not between 4 and 11. It's bigger than, between 4 and 10. It's bigger than the 10. It's not in that range. So then H as well doesn't work. Does this make better sense, Shwaya, Ru'a, and everyone?
Oh.
Everyone, are we good?
Yes. Yes.
If we tried K on the other side, let's pretend in 8 does not exist. So then we'll put X in the middle, and we'll add the other two sides, which is 15, and we'll subtract them, which is 5. If we checked again, 8 actually falls within this inequality. It is between 5 and 15. And if you tried any other two sides, like if you pretended that the 10 does not exist, then if we added 5 plus 8, which is basically 13, and 5 minus 8 would be 3, the 10 would fall فعلا in between that correct inequality. And the same goes with the 5 as well, because 10 minus 8 is 2, and 8 plus 10 is 18, and 5 falls between 2 and 18. So K is the only one that applies the same for all three sides. هو ده اللي احنا عملناه المرة اللي فاتت عشان أنا مش فاكر. Is this the same thing we did?
Yes, so.
What happened?
شكيت في نفسي مش عارف.
I don't know what happened. Probably I wasn't calculating things right. حاجة مش عارف. كنت ساعتها عشان كده فعلا I was telling you at some point خلاص الواحد بيبقى فاصل مش مجمع يعني. طيب. Any questions about this one ولا shall we move now خلاص to the other new one? No?
تمام.
طيب. Let's start بقى من أول 21. It says a bag contains 10 solid colored marbles of the same size, 3 red, 2 green, 1 yellow, 4 blue. I would just order them or just highlight them somehow so you can easily and quickly get back to those whenever you need. Which of the following expressions gives the probability? Whenever I see something that I know a rule for, I'll write the rule on the side, and the probability or percentage and the fractions, the three of them, have the same rule, which is wanted over total. And because I wrote the rule on the side, I know now that I'm looking for the wanted. So what's the wanted? The wanted is of drawing at random and without replacement. This is a very important part. A blue marble on the first draw, so the first should be blue. A green marble on the second draw, and a green marble on the second draw, and a blue again on the third draw. So if you remember, and that's something we discussed as well last class, we said if we need the probability of, let's say, event A and event B, we actually get the probability of A and we multiply it by the probability of B. But if we need the probability of event A or event B, then we get the probability of A plus the probability of B. Now in this scenario, they're saying that they're going to draw three different marbles. The first marble and the second and the third. So it means that I'm going to get the probability of the first and multiplied by the probability of the second and multiplied by the probability of the third. So what is the probability of getting blue in the first draw? You'll check how many blue are there, the wanted, 4. Over the total, which are all the number of marbles available in that bag. And apparently we have a total of 10. So 4 over 10 is the probability of getting blue in the first draw. Anyone does not understand how I got this first part? And the second should be green, because and I'll multiply now by the probability of getting the second one as green. So how many green are there? There are 2 green over the total, which now has decreased because I've already drew 1 marble out of the bag. And they said here there's without replacement. So if I took 1 marble out, the total now has been decreased to 9. Does this part make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Now, the third marble. The third marble is blue again. How many blue are there now? I've already collected, drawn 1 at the beginning. So now I have only 3 blue marbles available over the total, which has now been decreased by 2. So it's 3 over 8. When you look at choices, it should be choice D. Yes.
مش فاهمة البوينت بتاع البلو ماربل. يعني احنا ازاي خدنا 4 ماربلز اللي هو التوتال بتاع اصلا البلو ماربل وبعد كده بقى 3. يعني ازاي
ما احنا ما خدناش 4. احنا we didn't actually draw 4. احنا we're calculating the probability of drawing 1 blue marble في الأول. So we have 4 marbles to pick from out of 10. بس احنا هنختار واحدة مش هنختار الأربعة. احنا بننقي واحدة بس blue، صح؟ مش احنا بنحط ايدينا في الباج ننقي 1 marble. So if I'm calculating the probability بحط فيه العدد الافيلبل عامة over the total، مش عدد اللي انا اخترته over the total. فاهمة؟ شور. بس so عشان كده الافيلابيلتي بتاعت البلو في الاخر قالوا there were 4. now الافيلابيلتي اللي بختار منهم بقوا 3. مش بختار مش بختار برضو يعني مش بختار 3. مش اخترت 3، اخترت من 3. Do you understand that? Hopefully. طيب 22 is a very easy question, even though it looks شوية weird, but they explained exactly what needs to be done. Well, this is what they usually do. لما بيكون سؤال شكله كبير وصعب, it means they explain in details what's supposed to be done. It means supposedly it's supposed to be easier. So when you look at that, they said there's a key here to explain what does this stem and leaf represent. They say the key is if there's a number here and then there's a number there, this number means, or it's equivalent to 52. But what does that mean? It means that these numbers are actually not 7 and 8, they're 37 and 38. And these are not just 3, 5, 6, and 7. They're 43, 45, 46, and 47, and so on. Do we all understand how does the stem and leaf work?
No. Yep.
Okay, so imagine this يا سامر. Those are the tens وthose are the units. فبدل ما اكتب لك 37 38 39 هكتب كل النمبرز اللي اولهم 3 هحطهم under the stem of 3. وبدل ما اكتب كل شويه 37 38 كده هكتب 3 ومعاها 7 ومعاها 8 ومعاها 9 ومعاها كذا. So مثلا 6 معاها 0 معاها 1 معاها 2 معاها 3 معاها 6. What does that mean? It means 6 with 0 يعني 60. 6 with 1 يعني 61. 6 with 2 يعني 62. 63 66. Does this make sense?
Okay.
Sure?
تمام. ايه
طيب. So when they now start to ask me what is the probability, again احنا قلنا لما نشوف كلمة probability think of the rule. The rule is wanted over total. ايه wanted? The probability that a student chosen at random from the class will have jumped at least 60. So at least 60 يعني it needs to be 60 or more. So I'll count the numbers that are 60 or more. So I'll start with this 0 لأن the 0 means actually 0 next to the 6, it means it's 60. 1 next to the 6, it means 61. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 under the 60s. And then there's also these other 3. So there's a total of 8 numbers that are 60 or more over the total. How many are there? How many different ones are there? I have to count برضو all the leaves. Apparently I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 8. So that's a total of 19. So it's 8 over 19, perfect. So when you look at the choices, it's clearly there as it is. It's not even simplified. 8 over 19. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yes.
Perfect. Given the function this has a domain of this, what is the range of that? Now, we did actually solve this question specifically when we were explaining domain and range, when we worked on domain and range قبل كده. But anyway, here let's quickly برضو remind you of ايه هو الدومين وايه هو الرينج. الدومين is supposed to represent all the x values, while the range is supposed to represent all the y values. So here you're given the domain. When you're given the domain, it means you're given the x values. So every one of those is x. And you're also given the function. So you'll substitute instead of the x, this new x. So you'll put 5 minus 3, and instead of the x, substitute -1, which will get you 8, and then 5 minus 3. Instead of the x, put the new x, which is 0, which will get you 5. 5 minus 3, and then the third x, which is 2, which will get you -1. Yes, yeah.
we solved this test before, I guess, صح؟
I'm not sure if it's the same test ولا بس questions separate لأنه أنا واخد منه بصراحة حاجات كتير في التوبكس السبت. If you يعني according to ما بقول لك ما احنا حليناه في domain ورينج بس according to مثلا الريزلتس يعني كانوا easily بتراك مين عملنا ايه امتى. So last time, yes, this was Jan 10. Jan 10, yes. 14 days ago we did this. فعلا true. برافو. خلاص يبقى نغيره في اللي بعده. يعني نغيره في الفورم اللي جاي. مش هنكمله يعني. بس هشرح
لا I'm just asking بس
لا بس true. لا كويس. اصل انا عشان انا افتكرت ليه انا حطيت لكم الهوم ورك اول 4 بس انا لان اول 4 هم اللي ما حليناهمش في الكلاس شرحنا الاخرانيين وما عملناش في الكلاس الاول 4 فاديته لكم عشان كده هوم ورك عشان كده اسمكم مش موجود في you've actually solved اول 4. So that's why I put those 4 بس now I recall. It's okay. بيقول لي هنا to the nearest 1 foot what is the height of a rectangular prism with a base length of 15 and a base width of 1/3 and a volume of whatsoever. So برضه we're supposed to work from what we know or from something that we know a rule for. And المفروض we know the rules of all volumes because the volume of any shape whatsoever أيا كان هو إيه it is the area of the base and then multiplied by the height. It depends on the shape. For example, if I'm working on a cylinder, the cylinder would have a base that looks like a circle. The area of the base in this case would be pi r squared. If you multiplied that by the height, you'll get the volume of this shape. That's an example to explain how does the volume rule work. So because you're given the volume, you'll start from that. That's the thing you know a rule for. It is supposed to be the area of the base times the height. And they said up there that it's a rectangular prism. So it's something that has a base of a rectangle that looks like this. The area of the base in this case would be length times width, because the area of the rectangle is length times width. If we multiply that by the height, we'll get the volume. So that's the rule of the volume. I'll substitute that now. Instead of the volume, I'll put 100. Instead of the length, I'll put the length, which is 15. A base width of 1/3. So instead of the width, I'll substitute 1/3. And I'll leave the height as unknown. That's what they're trying to look for. 100 equals 15 times 1/3 on a calculator. That's 20 times h. I'll move 20 to the other side by division now. So I'll get the height as 5. That's the height. Does that make sense? Are you good, Sandra? Are you good? Heather, are you good?
كويس.
Okay.
أنا بس كنت جايبها عشان أنا كنتش حافظة الرول بتاعته.
ما هو عشان كده انا بفكرك بقى بالحته دي، انه الفوليوم بتاع اي شيء whatsoever بيشتغل بالطريقه دي، area of base times height. بدل ما تحفظي كل الرولز لكل واحد separately وتشوفي البيس بتاعي ده، لو rectangular يبقى البيس length times width، لو cylinder البيس هيبقى الcircle and so on. Does this make sense? Instead of memorizing too many rules. طيب بيقول لي هنا I need f of 5 and we love those questions المفروض لأن they're game like فعلا يعني. So g of f of 5, it means that I'm supposed to go from the inside out. يعني ايه inside out؟ يعني I'm supposed to go and look for ال x لما تكون ب 5 and substitute it into the f. So هروح للتيبل بتاعة ال f اهي وادور لما كانت ال x ب 5، ادي ال x ب 5. اشوف بقى ال f كانت بكام؟ ال f apparently كانت ب 3. So بدل f of 5 I'll substitute 3. يعني أنا دلوقتي عايز g of 3. طب how do I find g of 3؟ again هروح substitute ال x ب 3 بس في الفانكشن اللي اسمها g. So هروح للتيبل الثانية بتاعت g واروح اشوف لما كانت ال x ب 3 اهي ال g كانت بكام؟ It was the -5. And that is your final answer, the -5. C. Would you like me to repeat this? Tell me if there is an issue. 26 is a very nice question. It's clearly a right triangle, and in any right triangle, whenever they're trying to link between the angles and the sides, we will always think of trigonometry, sine, cosine, or tan. They're asking for the distance along the building between the ground and the top of the ladder. They're basically asking for this distance here, because that's the top of the ladder and the ground is over there. So I'll think, what does this yellow side represent to the 56? It's actually considered the opposite to the 56. And then what does this given side represent to the 56? It is the hypotenuse of this triangle. So then I'll think, what has the opposite along with the hypotenuse? It's the sine. So I'll write the sine of 56 equals the opposite, which is the one that I don't know, so I'll put x, over the hypotenuse, which is 15. If I'm trying to find x, I should move the 15 to the other side by multiplication. So it will become 15 times sine 56. When you look at the choices, it's right there, 15 sine 56. Any questions? No. The isotope iodine 131 has a half-life of 8 days, which means that the amount of iodine 131 remaining after T days is N times half to the power of T over 8, where N is the number of grams of iodine at T equals 0. How many grams of iodine 131 will remain after 16 days if there were 32 grams of iodine 131 at T equals 0? Just by looking at what every letter represents for the question, you should be able to figure out exactly what to do. Because they told me that the letter N is the number of grams of iodine. So when then they say there's this amount of grams of iodine, then I know that the 32 is the value of N. This means that N is equals to 32. Also, when you read it bardo up there, they said already this isotope of iodine whatsoever has a half-life of 8 days, and they're asking me, or up there as well, they said that the T, is representing T days, and then they said 16 days. So then this means that the T is equals to 16. I should substitute the N and the T into the expression. So I'll put 32 multiplied by half, and then to the power of, instead of the T, 16 over 8, which is part of the rule. Put this on a calculator, it should get you the answer. I think it's 8. صح؟
أيوة يا مستر.
8.
مستر أنا كنت فاكرة إن كنت لازم أحط تي بزيرو عشان آخر حتة.
So بصي هو طبعا I understand it's a very common يعني it makes sense انك تغلطي غلطه زي دي، بس انا هقول لك برضو what to follow. هو من بعد n it's all of this, it's the number of grams of iodine at T equals 0 entirely كلها على بعضها. So when we say مثلا بعدها 32 grams of iodine at 131 at T equals 0 again, it's exactly the same sentence. عشان كده تبقى ال n اكيد ب 32 without thinking of the T خالص. هي as if هي اليونت بتاعتها خالص. بس generally بقى هي what does it mean او ليه بيقول لي at T equals 0؟ because T equals 0 معناها انه at the beginning. At the beginning is معناها انه it's what we started with. وبecause this is an exponential function، الرقم اللي هنا ده فعلا should represent the initial value اللي هو الاماونت اللي انا I started with. فهو كل اللي عايز يوصله لي ان this is actually an exponential function where it's like a times b to the power of x. A is the initial value, the amount that you start with, and b is the rate, the growth rate. And that's why it's half, because over there they said it has a half-life. Yani it becomes half of the amount every 8 days. Does that kind of make sense?
أيوة يا مستر.
Okay. 28. It says which of the following expressions is equivalent to this. طبعا the easiest thing to do first of all ان انا لازم احسب الكيوبيك روت او السكوير روت او الحاجات دي of the numbers عادي on the calculator instead of thinking about them. يعني the fourth root of the 256 دي لوحدها حطها على الكالكوليتر من غير ال x power 16. Just this. If you put this on a calculator you'll get 4. So we know that the number should be 4. يعني h غلط اكيد و j غلط اكيد و k غلط اكيد. طب what about بقى ال x to the power of 16 اللي كانت جوه؟ When we have a root and we'd like to change from a root to a power, we take the power اللي جوه over this number اللي بره which we call index. So we take the power again over the index. So it will become x to the power of 16 over the 4, which is 4, because 16 divided by 4 is 4. So then we know the the answer is supposed to be 4x to the power of 4. Yani F has to be the correct answer. Does this make sense, ya jama'a?
Yes.
So whenever we have, let's say, a root of x to the power of b, or it's the a root of x to the power of b, I can switch this to become x to the power of b over a, the power over the index. And that's what we do for the x's. But for the numbers, we calculate them on a calculator normally. Moving on. Two concentric circles have, يعني ايه concentric أصلا؟ The word concentric يعني they share the same center. So let's say this is a circle, يعني there's a circle and then there's another circle out there and they both share the same center. طبعا ما شاء الله عليا بجد رسمي قمر. There's a circle hopefully استعين بدول واهو another circle and then they share the same center. I don't know how. It's something like this. Anyway, so they have radii of 5 centimeters and 6 centimeters. So let's say this is the center. One radius is, the bigger one would be 6, and the smaller one would be, it stops here, sorry, would be 5. How many centimeters longer is the circumference of the larger center than that of the smaller circle? Sorry. So في برضه keyword مهمة في السؤال ده, which is the part that says how many longer. So all those kinds of questions where I'm asking how many more, how many longer, how many shorter, how many less, everything like that, or how much more, all of those means minus, means there are two things that I'm going to subtract from each other. What do I subtract from each other? Wherever the word than exists, we start to put the subtraction sign. Whatever is before the than minus whatever is after the than. So when you read the question carefully كده again, how many centimeters longer? So I know I'm going to put a subtraction sign somewhere. It should go over the word than. Here's the word than over here, minus right there. Now what's before than is the circumference of the larger circle. What's after than is the circumference of the smaller circle. So I'll get the larger and then minus the smaller. So circumference of the larger would be a 2 pi r. Circumference of the smaller would be a again, برضه 2 pi r. What's the radius of the larger circle? It is 6. So 2 pi 6. What's the radius of the radius of the smaller circle? 5. So 2 pi 5. That would be 12 pi minus 10 pi, which is a total of 2 pi. That's the answer, C. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
See, I like قوي whenever we're trying to read a question كده إن to split it into things, tiny little things. So every single word that I read, I just performed an operation for that. How many longer is whatsoever? So I put the minus sign. There's the word than over there, so I put the minus sign exactly there. Whatever is it's as before that, I put before the minus, and whatever is after that, I put after the minus. Whenever I read the word circumference, I put the rule and so on. Make things a bit organized and to tiny smaller chunks, pieces and chunks. Number 30. Square with sides of lengths x centimeters have been removed from each corner of the rectangle measuring 8 centimeters by 18, resulting in the figure below. In terms of x, what is the area of the figure? So I like to think of this question in a way where as if it's like shaded somehow, as if it was originally a full rectangle. So I'll actually complete the rectangle to its original shape, and I'll pretend every one of those yellow parts were there عادي normally, and I'll get the area of the whole big shape عادي جدا, and then I'll remove from that area of the big shape the yellow tiny corner, the area of the yellow tiny corners. So I'll start with the area of the big shape. The big shape is basically 18 multiplied by 8 because it's length times width, which is 144. 144 is the area of the whole big rectangle. Now I'll remove, subtract from that 4 squares. Each square, the area of it is side times side, which is x to the power of 2. So it's 4x squared. So when you look at the choices, it's G. Does this make sense?
تمام.
31. Here's this shape, and they said this triangle was translated 5 units down. We also discussed that very recently. When we're moving up and down, we're subtracting and adding from the y coordinate. If we're moving up, we're adding, and if we're moving down, we're subtracting. If we're moving right and left, we're going to right add on the x and left subtract from the x. Then the resulting image will be reflected over the y-axis. So first, I'll translate and then reflect. When I reflect over the x-axis, I switch the y coordinates, switch the signs of the y coordinates. So مثلا if it was x and reflected across the x-axis هتبقى ال y غيرت الساين بتاعتها. بس if I reflected over the y-axis, I should change the coordinates of the x coordinate. So it should become negative x and y. But let's apply that. First of all, I'll pick a point. Let's say they said image of the point A, so I'll pick the point A, which is -5 and 1. I'll first translate it 10 units down. When I move down, as we said, we subtract from the y. So now I should have the new y coordinate as 1 minus 10, which is -9. That's the new y coordinate. And the x coordinate stayed as it is. Then this image was reflected over the y-axis. When I reflect over the y-axis, I should switch the sign of the x coordinate. So instead of -5, it should become +5, but the y coordinate will remain the same as -9. 5 and -9 is the answer. I think it's easy. Olivia, Ashton, and Jane are standing on a soccer field such that Olivia is 20 meters due west of Ashton. Here's a point that represents Ashton, and Olivia is on the west of Ashton, yani it's on his left. So here's Olivia, and they're basically 20 meters apart. Jane is 40 meters due north of Ashton. So I should go up north 40 meters, and that's where Jane should be standing, J. Now, which of the following expressions gives the degree measure of the angle of the angle of the triangle at the vertex where Olivia is standing? So we're looking for this angle right here where Olivia is standing. So this is the missing angle. How do I use the given information to find this angle? I apparently have the opposite side, which is this one, that's 40, and I have the adjacent side, which is this 20. So what holds the opposite and the adjacent? It's the tan. So I should say tan, the angle, is supposed to be equals to the opposite, which is 40, over the adjacent, which is 20. If I'm actually trying to find the theta itself, the angle itself, I'm supposed to move tan to the other side as tan to the power of -1. أو اللي هي على calculator shift tan. And then you should find the answer right there as J. Does this make sense? أنا فعلا مش فاكر الأسئلة دي خلاص بقى قوي بصراحة يعني. So what is the area of this? It's a triangle. The area of any triangle is half times base times height. لخبطني قوي. ده نفسه؟ طب ليه؟ ما هو again it's a triangle صح؟ And what we know about the area of a triangle is half times base times height. Let's look for the base of this triangle right there. And here seems to be, this is the base. It started at 0 and it ended at 6 on the x. So it seems in the tool ده 6. So the base here is 6. Now the height is this one. It started برضو at 0 on the y and it ended at y equals to 6. So this برضو has a distance of 6. So I'll just now substitute half. كده يا أسامة كده ما تقوليش أسامة I can't hear you. I think your mic is not working. I can tell you're unmuting but I can't hear. I tried to say, but my mic wasn't working. That's why. Okay. And I thought, خلاص, you're not bad. You give up on me. طيب. Just give me a second معلش عشان بس أكمل الدكتور. معلش على القطعة الجميلة اللي حصلت. بس we were saying إنه we basically now have the base and the height. So we're just going to do half times 6 times 6, which will give me on a calculator 18. Does this make sense? Right? And everyone?
Yes.
Okay. We then have this one, which is the length of AB. Bardo, because we just said that this is 6 and this is 6, we can use the Pythagoras theorem and say it's 6 squared plus 6 squared under the square root, which has to become 6 root 2. Look at the choices, and it's G. Again, so Pythagoras theorem, I know it's a triangle that looks like this. This is 6, this is 6, and they're looking for the length of that. So I can just say 6 squared plus 6 squared under the root, which is 6 root 2. Now it's important but to remind you quickly of what we call a special triangle فعلا. اللي هو the triangle, whenever we have this side equals to this side, we know right away that the hypotenuse will be x برضو بس times root 2. So that's why if this is 6, this is 6, the hypotenuse will be 6 as well, but times root 2. Or you can just use the Pythagoras theorem as we just said anyway. The 35, which of the following is an equation of AB? So they're looking for the equation of a line. When you go back to the xy axis that we had, this line over there, it seems clearly to be a negative sloped line. How did we know? We used the Nike sign. We do the Nike sign. If it crosses كده with the line, it means it's a negative sloped line. Or برضو we look كده كده or we read the lines from left to right. If the line is going down from left to right, this is a negative sloped line. So right away I know it's a negative sloped line. So right away برضو I'll cross all the answers that doesn't have a negative slope. So I'm only left with the A and D. Now I'll go back to the graph and check what is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is this point over there, which is positive 6. I'll go back to the equations and clearly A is the one that has the y-intercept as positive 6, but D does not. A is the correct answer for sure. Please head back to Google Classroom and let's work on part 8. Just part 8.
بس أنا محتاج مش عارف لو مشيت هو عملتها بعدين.
يا حبيبي انتوا كلكم عايزين تمشوا خلاص؟
بس عشان محتاج أروح أعمل حاجة.
It's fine يا حبيبي, it's fine.
مش نشوف.
Okay, sorry. Let's start with part 8. We'll give it just 7 minutes. If you're done before that, we'll start. Part 8, 7 minutes, starting right now.
Sorry, I didn't see the notification earlier. It's okay, بس ليه هتبقى تشوفك أو سمنها. That's okay. Who cares about others? It's okay, بس ليه هتبقى تشوفك أو سمنها. وأنا was like الحياة فشخاني. بس it's okay. I'm living it. انتوا ازيكم عاملين ايه؟ وحشيني بجد قوي. إن شاء الله أبقى أجي مصر إن شاء الله يعني. I hope soon. بس أنا بعد كبرت. I'm now working. I started working من 3 months or 4 months ago as a credit analyst. أبى أعطي الناس فلوس إذا عايز تعال خبرني.
لا بلاش أنا والموضوع الكريدت ده عشان أنا غالبا لو جيت لكم تاني هيحبسوني. I'm extremely happy بجد الموضوع إنك بتشتغلي ده. I'm very proud and very happy بجد for you. ما شاء الله يا حبيبتي بجد. طبعا كبرتي أكيد. life is فشخة for everyone, trust me. بس it's a beautiful فشخة. It's a nice one. So by time يعني في حاجات حلوة كده صغيرة بتحصل في النص. Just try to keep enjoying it. بجد I love everything that has to do with your smile and your optimistic كده voice and so on. والله يا مدوي ورد. يا عمرة يعني بلاش أنا وموضوع الكريدت عشان أنا غالبا لو جيت لكم تاني هيحبسوني. أنا مش حلو خالص في الموضوع ده عنكم. Now you don't know how proud I am والله knowing إن أنتي ما شاء الله بقيتي تشتغلي هو فعلا وكبرتي وحاجة جميلة خالص. Trust me والله life is فشخة for everyone. Trust me. Because there are always tiny little things كده حلوة وفن بتحصل والله. Just try to enjoy them. You're honestly one of the most optimistic people I know, so stay كده يا عمر يا fun و optimistic بجد. We miss you بقى way more than you know بجد يا مدوي والله. We miss you جدا.
This one is made up entirely of questions we've done before.
Stop. أنا صح I forgot إن عندنا إيه تاني لو مش تفكروني. معلش. One second. So I'm sending you guys now in the chat link, in the meeting, a new link for part 8 of another test. Please do that one instead. Again, I've sent you now another link in the chat. Please use that link. That's another test, part 8 برضه, so it's the same almost difficulty. I'll give you برضه 7 minutes. يا حبيبي انت
لسه حضرتك نزلته؟
انا بعته يا حبيبي على الشات.
على الشات ماشي.
كله زي الفل. هو لسه في الدرس يا عم معلش. انت فين اصلا؟ انت قاعد لوحدك ولا ايه؟ طيب بص يا يوسف اخلص. عندي يعني الساعة 10 كده درس مش 7 يعني. ايه ده؟ بتاع بكرة؟ لا عندي. هما فين أصلا؟ مم. مم. طب والواد فوسي فين؟ بقاله قاعد كتير؟ مم. طيب ماشي يا عم، أنا هخلص كده كده وأجيلك يعني عشان أشوف. ماشي هاكل وكده وأنت. ماشي هاكل كده وأجيلك. والله we're looking forward جدا، ويا ريت بجد تيجي يعني. وعايزين بقى احنا كمان كبرنا، فعايزين نوريكي حاجات بدوي تانية. تايا for example لوحدها is مصيبة. where we can't still believe it. فبجد try بجد try to come soon والله بجد will be very happy and will make you happy جدا وهتنبسطي وenjoy أوي سفرية والله. وبس طمني بقى تاني عليكي every now and then. وتاني طبعا بجد أي حاجة مادية أو always here. نلغي، عايزة أي حاجة، عايزة متضايقة من حاجة، عايزة بتبوظ تاني، عايزة أعلمك مصري تاني كده يعني. Ready?
أيوة بس أنا رقم 37 ده لخبطني جدا.
No, لازم discuss them كلهم. Let's start. لو انتوا جاهزين يلا. كل information that is stated up here is already drawn on the figure itself, so that, there's no need to go into the details of it. First of all, the first question they're asking for the measure of BAD, so it's BAD, we're talking about this whole angle. Now you need to know that if this is a parallelogram, as they said over here, in parallelogram ABCD, so it's a parallelogram, which means in the opposite angles are equal to each other, where the adjacent angles are plus بعض equals to 180. يعني this angle that I've highlighted in blue plus this one also that I've highlighted in the other blue plus each other should be equals to 180. So I'll just do 180 minus the 71 and minus the 42, and it should give me the entire measure of this angle A that I'm looking for, which is 113, so 77. Oh.
لا تقريبا 67.
67 seems to be right. 67 is the correct one, which means D is the correct one. Given that DC is equals 1 over 3n plus 7 inches. So here's DC, this one is equals to 1 over 3n plus 7. What is the value of n? وكده what do I know about these two sides? They're supposed to be equals to each other because the parallelogram says برضو and the opposite sides are equal to each other. So I'll just write them as an equation. 2 over 3n minus 5 equals 1 over 3n plus 7. You can either do shift solve أو move الحاجات اللي فيها n to the same side, and you'll have 2 over 3 minus 1 over 3, which is 1 over 3n, and then 7 plus 5, which is 12, which will give you n equals 36. All of this is definitely done easily on a calculator. This is the one that seems to be شويتين confusing. They say point A and C are located at 2 and 10, so point A is at 2 on the x, 10 on the y, and then point C is located at 30 and 3. This one is at 30 on the x, 3 on the y. Now, in the standard xy coordinate plane, what are the coordinates of point E? Point E is basically this point, which is the midpoint of this diagonal, because this part is definitely equals to this part. So how do I find the midpoint between any two things? I just need to add them and divide them by 2. Yes,
هو أنا عرفت منين إن هو mid point.
because that's the part of a parallelogram as well. Diagonals, when they cross each other, they bisect each other. They split each other into two equal parts.
ماشي اوكي لا خلاص كده سهلة ماشي.
So you just have to add the x's and then the y's, and then that's it. You'll get the x as 15 and the y as 7.7 over 13 over 2, 7.5. Yeah. What's that? ممكن حد يعني يحسب عشان 13 over 2. معرفش انا مهنكت تاني برضه كالعادة على آخر اليوم. طيب. Oh, it's not 16. It is 16. It is no, it's not 16. 32. It is 16. أنا حسبته غلط كل حاجة ما شاء الله. ماشي. Which of the following triangles is congruent to triangle ABE? So here's triangle ABE. Congruent means they're exactly equal. Is it ADC? So let's check ADC. It's that big triangle, and it's clearly not, because it's too big or much bigger than the other one. So no, it's not that. I'll cross F. AED, AED. This one. This seems to be ممكن وممكن لأ, بس officially actually it's not, لأنه I'm not sure if this side and this side are equal. If they were equal, I would say it's exactly the same triangle, but they're not. I'm not sure if they are. So I leave that for now. BCE. برضو it has the same issue where this side I'm not sure if it's equal to that one. Yes يا حبيبتي.
هو احنا ازاي بنعرف واحنا يعني بناخدها كده بالشكل ولا
لا, because of the rules again. So what are the rules of parallelogram? So if there is a parallelogram like this one, the opposite sides دول are parallel or are equal to each other, but they're not equal to the one next to them. Those two are the ones that are equal to each other وبرضه parallel لبعض. Now as well as في نفس الوقت بالنسبة بقى للانجلز, الانجل دي بتبقى قد الانجل دي, والانجل دي بتبقى قد الانجل دي, واي تو انجلز جنب بعض بيبقوا بلس بعض ب 180. So كده أنا عارف for a fact إن السايد ده هو قد ده, بس هو مش قد الاتنين التانيين. الاتنين التانيين دول اللي قد بعض, يعني ده قد ده ماشي وبارلل لبعض. So when you look at it كده بالألوان اللي أنا حاططها now and you
طب
start.
احنا ليه ما ينفعش نختار آخر واحدة اللي هي CDE؟ طالما هي كده equal يعني.
It is definitely. هو it is the true. لأنه كده كمان الأنجل دي قد الأنجل دي, فكده الأنجلين دول قد بعض, وكده برضو according to the parallel lines مثلا الأنجل اللي هنا دي قد الفوق اللي هي الأنجل دي قد الأنجل دي, والأنجل اللي هنا دي قد الأنجل دي, وكده برضو they share exactly the same sides. الريد قد الريد, والحتة دي أكيد قد الحتة اللي هنا دي, والحتة اللي هنا دي قد الحتة اللي هنا دي. So they are exactly the same, بس we're confirming in every one of the other ones is not officially true no matter what. فاهمة؟
Okay, thank you.
في questions في دي؟
لا.
89. I basically have two triangles. Yes يا حبيبي.
مستر أنا في السؤال اللي فات ده اللي هو بتاع CDE أنا برضو جبته عشان في السؤال اللي قبليه كان بيقول
من السايدز اللي قدام بعض قد بعض,
اللي هو بيقول AB congruent to CD.
صح.
عملتها CD على طول.
definitely صح.
كأنه ادالك الأنسر يعني.
صح. فعلا. letters بس حتى. Which of the following expressions is equal to this times that? So I'll just have to multiply those by distribution. Just follow the rules of that, and you'll notice. So this times this, that's a squared, and then a times this, that's negative 2a root b. Root b times a, that's positive a root b, and then root b times negative 2 root b. So the numbers here, they're supposed to be 1. So 1 times negative 2 would just be negative 2. Now for the root b times root b, root times root, if they have the same exact number inside, it becomes just b. The roots cross each other. Only if they have the same number inside the root. So now when you notice carefully كده, you'll see there are two terms with the same, they're like terms يعني, which is this one a root b and that one a root b as well. So I'll leave the a squared as it is, but then -2 plus 1, that's -1 a root b minus 2b. Look at the choices and it's b. Number 40 بقى. The track of مش عارف ايه model 30 feet diameter زي ما مكتوبين. مهم. Now if the engine of the train travels at a constant rate of 75 feet per minute. I told you بقى whenever we see a rate we don't just write it كده وخلاص, we write it in terms of cross multiplication. يعني we write feet minutes. The 75 feet are done in 1 minute. That's how we write it down. Now they're asking to the nearest minute, how many minutes does the engine take to go in a figure 8 pattern around the entire track exactly one time? So I need to know, يعني هو, if I need to go around the whole shape in an 8 figure, so it goes something like this. It means I need to know the entire distance that this train will travel. So let's say this train started here. When it go around an 8 figure, it will go around this circle entirely once, and the bigger circle entirely once. Which means I basically need to get the circumference of the small circle and the circumference of the big circle. The circumference is found by 2 pi r. 2 times r يعني 2 radii يعني diameter. So you're already given the diameter. This one is 30 pi. 30 ولا ايه? So the circumference of this circle is 30 pi, while the circumference of this one is 50 pi. So the circumference of the whole thing is 80 pi feet. If I need to know how many minutes would that take, I'll just cross multiply. And I'll do 80 pi multiplied by 1 divided by 75 and get that on a calculator.
مستر أولها بالديسيمال
3.35 صح؟
اه
Perfect. Now they need to know how many to the nearest minute. So because it's 3.3, I'll have to approximate to the smaller, and I'll have to pick the h.
3.
Yes, not the 4. عشان هي لو if it was bigger than 0.5, I would have picked the 4. That's it. Please fill in the exit ticket, and thank you for today. وسوري إن أنا طولت عليكم.